Namaskar, I am Dr. Rama Paudel. Welcome to 11th episode of SCIPOD, the conversation on science, policy and development issues in Nepal. Globally, women are the least represented in science, technology, engineering and mathematics.
Global IME Bank, सबैका लागि bank.
The underrepresentation of women results in a significant loss in modern societies. Women play a critical role in science and technology, but women career scientists still face gender biases. Despite these challenges, very few females are working as a role model in our society. We can dismantle gender stereotypes and biases in science through enhanced visibility of these female role models. In this episode, we will be discussing the issues of closing the gender gap in STEM field in Nepal. Our guest for today is Professor Dr. Bijaya Pant. Dr. Bijaya Pant is a professor of Central Department of Botany, Tribhuvan University, and also the academician in Nepal Academy of Science and Technology, NAST. Dr. Pant has supervised 80 MSc and 8 PhD students and has published more than 120 papers in national and international journals and authored 3 books and 2 edited books. Professor Pant has presented scientific papers at various national and international conferences and symposia. Professor Pant is engaged in the commercialization of tissue culture-raised plant as the research director in Annapurna Research Center. She has received numerous awards and recognition, including Fellow of the World Academy of Sciences. Welcome, Dr. Pant.
Thank you, Rama. Thank you very much.
I'm very delighted to have you here. You have mentored, you have created a generation of scientists, and you are working in science and botany as a professor of botany. I know there are very few professors who have supervised this level of students, almost 80 masters and 8 PhD students. How do you describe your journey?
Thank you, Rama. First of all, I would like to thank you for starting this very important program that we are talking about the science. So regarding my journey, it's very if I see the journey, it's a long journey, but I'm still actively working, so it's a blink of time. It passed in a blink of time, I feel like that. But yeah, when I started my career as a part-time teacher in Central Department of Botany after my PhD, at that time it was a very difficult time to start the research, because I have just joined the Tribhuvan University after completing my PhD from Hiroshima University, Japan, and at that time I have seen my junior colleagues. They were doing their research on their company's project. So I was surprised why companies' research is doing by the academic institution. So at the time I thought, I mean, academia means just to get the degree, but they were working the industry's problem as a research. So I wanted to do the similar kind of thing after coming back to Nepal, but at the time the infrastructure as well as the 18 hours load shedding situation was there, and my work, my research was in lab based tissue culture I wanted to carry on, but my teachers were my colleague. So they were very supportive.
When was it? When
it
did
was
you start
1997. I joined Tribhuvan University, and
you started tissue culture research at Tribhuvan University.
No, I'm talking about it. Our senior teacher, she was also Professor Dr. Sanodevi Joshi. She initiated tissue culture research in Central Department of Botany, first time in Nepal. Head of department as well. She is also academician of NAST, very respected madam, and I give this credit to her because in her era she started tissue culture research in her own table. Wow. So So that was the, I mean, in every generation there are stories. And madam started that simple tissue culture concept, and I added the stone, I think, but it was difficult because nowadays we are privileged that we have lots of research funds. We have now, I must say, but at that time I was seeking for a small grant, and but anyhow, if you have a motivation and if you are strongly committed, you can do. But you know, at that time, as for all we ladies face, our career development, family, you know, development time, biological clock moves in the same time. So this was difficult time, but if you are motivated and if you are committed, then you can do, I think. And every generation has this kind of difficulties.
Working as a researcher, as a scientist in academia, what inspired you, and how did you, as you mentioned, now there are lots of fundings. How did you keep going on, and how did you collect those fundings?
Yeah,
and how did you seek the collaborator in that time?
You are right. There are research professor, there are academic professor in most of the developed country, and it's very, as I have already told, the industries pay a lot to the research professor, including government, because they have priority research to be carried out that generate economy. But we don't have that kind of thing, and whether you are I mean, any kind of lecturer or any kind of researcher, you have to seek your own funding or grant. So what I believe is, to be a good teacher, you have to be researcher, right? Then only you understand what you are teaching or what message you are giving to your student as a teacher.
Especially in STEM, that's really crucial.
As a teacher also, you need to be a researcher if you are in the science field, I believe. So I feel like, I mean, with the young students, you have to be connected through a dream that science is not only a teaching, right? It's a service to the society. So if your research can give an answer to the society, many questions society put on, and that questions science can give. Not necessarily it has to be a rocket science or sophisticated science. Simple answer the science can give. That message teacher can make understandable to the students, right? So that's, for that reason also, you have to be a researcher, you have to be associated. That's why I work with so many students in different you know, area of tissue culture, biotechnology, and especially nowadays I am very much engaged in orchid research. And I have very much fascinated by the Japanese system of research and treatment system also. They have modern medicine as well as traditional medicine. So after coming back to Nepal, I was very passionate to work, carry on the orchid research, and I started seeking why these orchids have been so much destroyed and illegally traded. So I found that we having a high medicinal value, they have been doing so. So we must focus on one product, I thought at that time. So I have been doing that research then till now, because you have to be passionate in one thing until you get the answer.
And not only research, in our earlier episode, Dr. Bijaya Pant also mentioned how you transfer the technology, the tissue culture raised seedlings for orchids in her industry, and that how it created the entrepreneurship opportunity for her. So you are also establishing a research center, we're doing a research, mentoring students, also encouraging the entrepreneurs as utilizing your products. I mean, like your research into entrepreneurship. Can you please elaborate your experience on that?
Oh yes, you know, it's not, you need a long, you know, long chain of people to work with you if you really would like to give the product to people. There are lots of value chain process as well as people's chain process also. And I thought I will give the product to people or users, but actually I had to learn many things from them. So in this process, it's not Annapurna Neuro Hospital, which my husband is a chairman. So the diagnostic lab, research lab has to establish. It was his vision. So research lab was a diagnostic lab at the beginning, and we were looking after the anti-cancer product from the orchids, because or why they were traded. Two of my students did PhD on this topic. One of my colleague, now he is my colleague, he was my PhD student, Dr. Rama Paudel. He also did the anti-cancer property in orchid. Now another student, Mr. Pushparaj Joshi, is almost completed. So in that lab, we produce the plants that are orchid plants as well as tissue that possess the anti-cancer properties. And we tested in different kind of cell line. These are cervical cell, cancerous cell, brain tumor, lung cancer, all different kind of cell. And also they were not killing any normal cell. Actually they were boosting the growth of normal cell. And these plants have been used as a therapeutic agents since ancient time. And nobody is doing this kind of in-depth research in our country. So if our facilities were there in the university, we could do that kind of work, but we had to collaborate, as you mentioned, collaboration. And we are doing the part of the work in Annapurna Research Center. And actually we tested many different kind of orchids. So Pratibha came to collaborate with us, that she is also producing the beauty product. And we have tested many orchids that are those orchids show the antioxidant properties as well as antimicrobial, which is her need. And that part actually did by us, and the rest is by she's going to do. So that kind of collaboration is very important. So through that process we are doing internal in-house collaboration as well.
Great example how we could create a collaboration and add the value on those products. And coming back to orchids again, I would say you as an if I say you as an orchid queen,
No.
I would not be wrong, I think.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with this plant? It's a very beautiful plant. It has a very high diversity in Nepal. What is the scope of orchid plants in Nepal? What are the challenges? What are the prospects? And just let's talk about the orchids now.
Yeah, okay, thank you. It's very interesting question. I don't tire talking about the orchids, because everyone get fascinated with this plant.
Yeah, name
it's
is
so
also
beautiful,
beautiful, yeah.
right? It's so beautiful. And when I was in World Orchid, I would like to tell a story.
Yes.
When I was in World Orchid Conference in Singapore in 2010, my colleague asked me to talk about the orchids of Nepal. So I put my point, I will talk about the medicinal orchids of Nepal, because at that time I was already started working on medicinal orchid. And World Orchid Conference means it's like it's a huge economy changing conference of any country. It's like a World Cup. They vote for to organize the conference. So it's like a huge orchid painting, everything happens at the conference, not only academic session. And there were 400 papers. And at the end of the day, like on third or fourth day after the academic session, they announce my name to come in the to the stage. Some including my name, some 3-4 others' name. So our presentation was selected for the interview of national television.
In Singapore?
In Singapore. It was for 6 months as a current affair for 4 languages. Chinese, Malayan, English, and one another language, maybe Hindi, or I don't know, from Singapore, but it was selected. I mean, I'm not talking about the selection of my presentation, but they were concerned about the medicinal value of orchids. Because people were talking about its beauty, its fantasy, and of course it is beautiful flower, but the hidden beauty in it was its medicinal value, and people were getting, are trading and illegally selling these plants and using secretly as a secret ingredients. It's happening everywhere in the world. So at that time I started to, I thought like I would write the book on it, and then I decided to write the book, and it took 3 years, and in 2013 I published a book, Medicinal Orchids of Nepal, with my co-author Dr. Bhakta Bahadur Raskoti. He is a taxonomist, and we published a book. It took 3 years. So after that book, publication of that book, another scientist from Singapore published a book that is in Medicinal Orchids of Southeast Asia. So that's how this book is still in Amazon.com. So this is how we actually open up the value of orchids. So talking about its value in our country, it's economy changing plants. Not as a medicinal, but as a floral, as a food value, as a pollinator, most interesting pollination plant. Darwin has written a book in fertilization of orchids. It has got a specific flower structure. So but in our country people don't know much about it.
So what is the geographical nature of these orchids in Nepal? Are they available
I think from 2,200 meter to they are distributed up to 4,500 meter altitude, from lowland to highland. They are the most diverse plant globally.
In Nepal, 500 species?
About 500, sometimes 550. They have been recorded in different literature, but still new number are adding on the list. New species are reporting. So what I would like to say, Rama, see, in Korea, South Korea, this is a country which was like all the underdeveloped country in 60s, like many of the underdeveloped country of Asia or Africa. They have put a lots of funding on research and development. Now it is the one of the developed country which is selling any product globally as an industrial country. We can see. So they have one product, Panax ginseng. I think you know this name, ginseng. Ginseng tea, ginseng beauty product. There are so many products. So this is a single plant, right? They have industrialized. It's a topmost value add commodity in their economy. They have mentioned it. Just like a Samsung company, they have invested on ginseng. And then that ginseng is produced in laboratory. They don't pick up from the nature. So our plants like orchids, there are many other plants, medicinal plants, which has been illegally collected and traded in a low price. And then we buy those their byproduct in a very high cost. So I wanted to, at least during our research, my research journey, I have been fortunate to work with so many good students, colleagues, right, and co-worker. So at least in our lifetime, why not to identify our ginseng? So I think this one is orchid. It must be, because my students, as you have already mentioned, some of my students have already worked on other medicinal plants also. We have compared those plants, for example, say Valeriana jatamashi or Paris polyphylla. This has been reported by Priority Plant at Government of Nepal, and we compared the anti-cancer property of these plants with orchids. Orchid has highly anti-cancer property than those plants. So this is a kind of commodity we have to promote, and we have already, in collaboration with Annapurna Research Center, we have developed a nutraceutical. So when the people are in last stage of their health after cancer, it is like a hope, and it is promoting the normal tissue proliferation.
Our indigenous plants which are available in nature, they have a very high value in treating those diseases, and I'm so glad to hear about your research in orchids and its anti-cancer properties as well. It's kind of like very encouraging to know.
There could be many more different such plants. We have to invest a lot in the research industry. So it's Annapurna Research Center is a small privately supported lab with a small funding grants, something like that. But still in that small center, so many undergraduate students has been trained, right? They have learned, right? And many people have saw the dream there. So such centers are very essential in our country, so that our large research population can retain in the country, or someone who work abroad and want to contribute coming back to our country, they can contribute.
Yeah, I'm in agriculture field. Always we used to talk about value addition in agriculture, but when I started having a conversation with other scientists and through this show, I see the huge aspect on science, entrepreneurship, our medicinal plant, our indigenous plants. All these resources can be utilized on a large scale to boost the economy of the country, and definitely these medicinal properties of these plants with life-saving medicines would be a great idea on that. Coming back to your journey again, and I'm so glad when I talk with, even last week I was in meeting with one of your students. She was just like, I can feel how she feel about you when I stay with her. You were also created the new generation even in your department, right, to continue working on the issues that you have created. That's a real beauty of your work. And coming back to closing the gender gap in STEM fields, and myself being a female faculty in Tribhuvan University, I feel there is a gap. There are still few female, and there are some barriers on it. The research environment and the research grant, the fostering environment, collaborative environment, it's not same everywhere. So what do you think about it? How could we foster such enabling environment for female scientists?
In this point, I always say science is underestimated, not science as a whole. So you have started this podcast. We are talking about science. Where are all the media where they talk about science much? I haven't seen much, right? We don't talk about the science, and we don't deliver our message to the audience, larger population who are public, right? So what I would like to add here, of course, in university, what I feel is during our student time, lots of progress has been taken regarding grants, but still, once you to be a woman means you have to pass through the lots of barriers, social responsibility, motherhood, right? So in that case, in university, when I was a young mother, I wanted to see the daycare center around. I wanted to see a child-friendly library in the university library premises, right? Because I had also small kids. So I used to take my kids to the university when I had a short class hours. So that kind of, now it's fine. We don't need to demand much because science goes like a collaboration. You are also equally competent. But during that hard period of time that every woman goes through, her priority shifts towards her kids, raising kids. At that time, certain flexible hours, right? Certain flexible facilities should be given. And I was very fortunate at that point because as I mentioned, my teachers were my colleagues. So they supported me at that time, and I had that. Of course, everyone has that time, but that someone a working place from support from family is very important. Otherwise, you cannot move ahead. And this is a very hard time, and you have to be very emotionally, mentally strong to come through that journey. Regarding the university, still in the administrative position, there are very few ladies professors.
I want to stop you here. Recently, there were like 8 deans appointed, and no one was females, right?
So this is also a social barrier, I think. One thing is social barrier. One thing is now the political appointment system should be completely, it shouldn't be in universities, in any academia. So because women are a little bit different in that scenario. They are more reserved, more honest, I think. It's not when
I talk with some of the female scientists, guests and other people as well, having a females in leadership create an innovation, different ideas,
yes, of
even
course,
like from different angles that needed by the society. So it's really important to have a females in a leadership in academia as well. So like actually, like as you mentioned before, like Organization for Women Scientists in Nepal, our team has recently visited a Minister of Education, and we talk about those issues. Why don't we have a small space that's friendly to females, like a gender friendly space that's available for their children, like so that like the teacher professor can come in library and stay there to have their work, having their work there, and also the children nearby. So like she was really positive, and I heard that in Senate there is a gender policy coming up, and also the social media kind of policy, and minister was positive having the inclusive participation during the policy formulation, and showed her interest having a participation from female faculty, and I believe that the university authority will take it
very
forward
seriously,
very seriously,
because since our time it's continuous process. Not only female teachers, but in master level, many of the ladies students are married and they have children. So that is also we will support their study if such centers are around the university. And regarding the as you have already mentioned, how you can apply for grants, I think for grant application, we have to come forward. There is no biasness from my perspective, because the application should be competitive, and in that case we have to be competitive as well. And of course there is a team of researcher, PI, co-PI. So there are some female PI as well. So I think this is also a good competition is always good for us too, isn't so? So now the social media and this there are lots of technologies are coming up. That's why female are also coming up. So we have to see this positive rise and positive growth.
Yeah, if feminization is increasing in every sphere of society, and science and technology and everywhere. So like to move economically forward in science and technology as well, like we need to boost up the participation, like the qualitative participation of female scientists in this area, and we are advocating for that. How could we create an environment so that we can flourish together, right?
And that's true, because two different gender think differently. So if the positive good idea come from different gender, it's always good, isn't so? Your thinking perspective and your partner thinking perspective might be different, but if we are working in a common goal, contribution are from positive contribution can be come from both sides. So this is actually
I was kind of emotional when we were talking about orchids, especially the anti-cancer properties of orchid, and you just what you share about the last hope for those cancer patients. But coming back, I think like I want to hear more stories about orchids. Do you have any kind of significant stories that you would like to memorize and share with audience about while working with the orchids?
Okay, yeah, there are many. Like we have done a survey in community forest. Kap community forest is a very successful story in Nepal, and we have visited few about 2013-14, long about 10 years back. We did a survey because those areas, say Daman, Chitlang, were highly illegal orchid traded area, and I have heard tons of orchid would be illegally traded from those area, and we visited what is the situation. So we found the illegal orchid collector would come from the outside. The local people didn't know about it. So when we educated them, these are our treasure, they actually contributed for their conservation. So I learned a lot working with the community people, and I thought I'm a researcher, I know everything, but it's not true. I have worked when we are transferring orchids from lab to land. I'm learning from nursery people, gardener. So our science is not a lab science. You have to go to the nature people, and you are so connected with them. And one of my colleagues from Ilam is a family friend. He has taken 300 hours seedling. She want to grow in his forest. So it's not only government, but the orchid enthusiastic people, you have to communicate with them, and this is a beautiful connection with me. We scientists just gather in our own conference, own space, but once you come out from your space, you know more. So that's a learning for me, and that is actually pushing me to go ahead and giving dream to my young students, young generation, so that this will not die. This has to be carried on by someone. Like it's like a relay race. Any knowledge is a relay race. So till you make people, I mean some good thing to people through your research, and that is only impactful research, I think.
Yeah, that's really true. And like nowadays, when we talk about the plant species and everything's, we talk about the biodiversity loss, and we talk about the effect of climate change. Are there any impacts due to climate change and its severe impact in orchid species in Nepal?
Yes, definitely, because orchids are, as we talk about its value as a medicinal, as a beautiful flower, it's the most important component of biodiversity, because many plants species are cohabitant with orchids, say lichens or other mosses like all the pteridophyte ferns, and there are many epiphytic orchids who grows on tree without harming the, maybe they will provide other medicinal component to the tree health. And one interesting thing is thousands of mycorrhiza are associated with orchid plant. So mycorrhiza are always there for forest health. And orchids have a specific flower structure, and that is for a specific pollinator. If there is no orchid plants in nature, there will be loss of many pollinators, and the whole ecosystem will be disturbed, right? And of course we are facing the the threat of climate change to every species. So if these plants are declining, then definitely the pollinator depending on it will be, you know, will be no more there, right? No, fungus will be lost, and the whole forest health will be impacted, and there are so many chain effect on the biodiversity and plant not only plant, in the whole ecosystem.
Are there any policies that you have involved, or like we talk about the legal and illegal traits of those important plant species?
Yeah, there are policies. There are policies. We have also formulated with the Ministry of Forest Affairs, with Department of Plant Resources. We have organized a workshop about 2017. We have done a national workshop. At that time, we revised the policy, but there is policy, there is biodiversity law. Despite that, you know, it is not implemented. We have very nice policy. Even I was in the formulation of science policy. We have revised and put the very science-friendly policy. But the problem is always in the implementation, in the monitoring, right? So that path should be very strictly followed everywhere in our lifestyle nowadays. Rules, if we just follow the rules of certain things, many problems will be solved. So there are policies you can collect from wild in their growing season, some part. But even from the rural village, people don't know much about what is this. What an interesting story you were asking. When we visited the forest, so people were talking about the orchid seeds, and these are the best pickle for us. So very interesting thing is, orchid seeds do not germinate. 98% seed die without meeting the fungus partner. So those precious seeds were collected by local and making the pickle. So this kind of thing we should educate. We have to, government should be there.
Ma'am, whenever I meet with you, I feel a positive vibes from you, and as a role model for the scientific community, for all of us. We are coming to end in this conversation. Would you like to share anything else to my audience?
Oh, so we are scientists. I mean, we are science people, and I always think Kulmanji was appreciated by public whenever we got the light era. But we never talk about the scientists who work behind that light era, right? So we have to keep on telling science. We have to convince people. We can give the solution, like the solution giving people of every problem are scientists. Like anytime, whenever the weather is changing, so people see the climate data.
People need to listen more about the scientists, and scientists need to speak out more. Right?
So what you have started is a very, very important thing. And we talk about the research paper, publications, Google Scholar, something like that. What you are doing is more than that. I really appreciate.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. It's my honor.
Being a scientist, you are doing extra work. So keep up, Rama. I'm very proud of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming in SCIPOD. I'm so blessed to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.